Clean government is the historical mission of communists. February 1990. China has an old teaching. The one who wins the heart of the people wins an empire. Footnote 1. This expression is based on the following line from Book 4a of the Mencius. There is a way to get the kingdom. Get the people, and the kingdom is got. There is a way to get the people. Get their hearts, and the people are got. There is a way to get their hearts. It is simply to collect for them what they like, and not to lay on them what they dislike. Mencius, Book 4a, in the Works of Mencius, translated by James Legge, New York, Dover Publications Incorporated, 2013, page 300. Part of the Confucian canon, the Mencius is a compilation of anecdotes and open discussions between Mencius and his disciples during the Warring States period. Together with the Great Learning, the Doctrine of the Mean, and the Analects, it is considered one of the 4 books. End of footnote 1. What, then, do we Chinese communists do to win the heart of the people? We rely on integrity and serving the people wholeheartedly. This is a truism. The new democratic revolution and socialist development have proven it. The political turmoil of 1989 also taught us from the negative side. Clean government is the historical mission of us communists. Footnote 2. This refers to the political turmoil that took place in Beijing during the end of the spring and the beginning of summer of 1989. End of footnote 2. If we do not take up this mission, we will lose the heart of the people and offer vulnerabilities to our enemies. It should be noted that, on the whole, our party has withstood the double test of being the ruling party and engaging in reform and opening up. The majority of party members are dedicated to serving the public. We have reached a point, though, where the corruption of a small number of people within the party has reached an intolerable point. We must punish them to assuage the people's anger. At one time, the inevitability of corruption was a popular idea. Some believe that reform and opening up is bound to give rise to corruption. If that is true, then reform and opening up has not inspired the people, but has made them decadent. It has not strengthened party cohesion, but has demoralized it. This is certainly not the reform and opening up that we want. The nature of our party's mission and of the socialist system mean that we cannot tolerate corruption to creep up and spread. Our goal is not only to develop the economy, but also to have a clean and orderly government. Coming into contact with the realities of Ningde, its impoverished areas, and lack of basic resources, we realize that the task of overcoming poverty is quite difficult. It demands even more that we address clean government in order to unite and lead the people. But some people use power to make money, engage in graft, and take bribes, and use unpaid labor to create their own personal world of pleasure. Some, when they lack building materials, misappropriate public supplies, even those to be used in education, poverty alleviation, or disaster relief. Footnote 3. This refers to steel, timber, and cement. End of footnote 3. Yet others are as daring as Vice Chairman Zheng of our Regional Federation of Overseas Chinese, who went so far as to pocket donations from overseas Chinese for personal use. If we are not the first to worry about the affairs of the state and the last to enjoy oneself, and act like these people instead, then what hope does our cause have? And why should the 2.7 million people of Ningde trust us? We therefore have no choice but to fight corruption and emphasize clean government. In late 1988, as we studied the overall work plan for our prefecture in 1989, we decided to strengthen party building, crack down on corruption, and promote the reform and opening up. Then, at the prefectural party committee's working meeting in January 1989, we decided to highlight the 3 areas in our fight against corruption: officials misappropriating land to put up buildings in violation of law and party discipline, abusing their power in project contracting, and engaging in graft and taking bribes. To begin our full deployment of the fight against corruption, we decided to severely punish officials who misappropriated land for building housing for themselves. Over the past year, through the joint efforts of the entire region, we have seen significant results in punishing corruption and building a clean government. We have essentially put an end to officials misappropriating land for building houses for themselves in violation of law and discipline, abusing their power in project contracting, and other unhealthy trends. We have made significant progress on investigations of major graft and bribery cases, a sign of the resolute determination of the prefectural and county party committees to punish corruption and engage in clean government. The problem we face now is how to consolidate these victories, close in on the cornered adversary, and take the fight against corruption even further. We communists must make our historical mission of building a clean government a long-term task. We must successfully cross 2 hurdles. The first hurdle is within ourselves. V.I. Lenin said that people of political nobility will not become corrupt. The poor character and tainted thoughts of our officials is not only an important cause for corruption, it is also an obstacle to punishing corruption. Without rectifying ourselves, how can we rectify others? To bring peace to the world, one must first rectify oneself. Footnote 4. See Wu Jing, The Way of the Sovereign, in Essentials of Government of the Zhengwan region. A native of Junyi, Bianzhou, modern Kaifeng, Henan province, the Tang dynasty's Wu Jing circa 670 to 749, was an historian who was known for his courage to speak bluntly before the emperor. End of footnote 4. We must therefore continually strengthen our self-discipline for clean government and honest public service, which is inseparable from our conscious acceptance of education. We must receive an education in basic Marxist theory, socialism, and patriotism, the revolutionary tradition, hard work and struggle, and our national conditions. The second hurdle is relationshipism. Fighting corruption is bound to involve specific people. If it involves our friends, former schoolmates, or relatives, will we be upright, plain-spoken, impartial, and incorruptible? Or will we be lenient, trivialize large matters, and make small ones go away? If so, if we abandon our principles for one person, we will lose the trust of tens of millions of people. It is not a question of whether to cross these two hurdles. We simply must do it. Of course, surpassing the two hurdles merely lays a foundation. We must also begin to fundamentally eradicate the breeding grounds upon which corruption depends for its survival. What are those breeding grounds? One is the abuse of power. No matter how great or small the power of us party members, it is given to us by the people. We can only follow the will of the people and work for their interests. When the people hand over power to us, we must allow them to feel at ease when we use such power. How do we make the people feel at ease? A very important way is to establish regulations and rules. Establishing a complete, systemic, and comprehensive system to control and supervise the use of power is a fundamental means of preventing corruption. We have already implemented the 2 opens and 1 supervision system, which we must continue to uphold and improve. Footnote 5. 4 discussions, 2 opens, and 1 supervision is an administrative practice in villages. Under the leadership of the village party organization, this practice must be followed when formulating and implementing policies on important matters. According to the 4 discussions, party organizations propose, village and party committees confer, party meetings deliberate, and village representative assemblies and village assemblies decide. According to the 2 opens, resolutions are made in the open, and the results of their implementation are made public. According to 1 supervision, the process of formulating and implementing resolutions on important matters at the village level is supervised from start to finish. End of footnote 5. This work cannot languish within the higher level agencies. It must go down to the grassroots level. Since all of our work is to serve the people, we should and can widely accept the criticism and supervision of the people. If we have the courage to openly accept such criticism and supervision, it is an expression of our strength as communists, and also a concrete manifestation of practicing what we preach. Communists are confident in assuming the historical mission of building a clean government and this confidence is based on submitting to the truth and striving for the truth in every practical action. To build a clean government in Ningda at this time, we must do 3 things. The first is to continue to investigate and deal with major corruption cases, expand the depth and breadth of the investigations, and conclude and publicize a few representative cases. We must quickly investigate and reach a conclusion on existing cases to let people know the outcome as soon as possible. We should follow existing leads, continue with in-depth investigations, and get to the bottom of the cases. We must also focus on finding new leads and thoroughly investigating them. In investigating and handling major cases, we must adhere to the facts, use the law as our yardstick, and arrive at conclusions that can withstand the test of history. The second is to grasp the key aspects and steadfastly pursue them. As we continue to investigate and deal with graft and bribery, abusing power in project contracting, and misappropriating land for building private housing, we must also address the problems of banqueting, entertaining guests, gifting, gambling, and arrears on and illegal possession of public funds. We should grasp the key aspects in several stages, analyze the causes and clarify the situation, and take effective measures to stop the trends. This will show the people that our efforts are genuine, that we dare to tackle tough problems, and that we truly intend to punish corruption. The third is to establish a clean government accountability system. If our leaders at all levels are clean and honest, being upright themselves before rectifying others, they will provide a good example from the beginning. We must strictly require our own relatives, children, and staff to refrain from sheltering, hiding, and interceding on all issues related to family and friends. To follow the party's code of conduct and to strictly enforce existing provisions for honesty and integrity. In building a clean government, we must also be worthy of the honorable name of communists. A chat about entering public service. March 1990. The Fujian Provincial Institute for Leadership Science invited me here to discuss ways that young officials can develop into good leaders. Without any specialized study in this area, I can only talk about my own experience as a government official and the lessons I have learned. If I had to pick a title for this discussion, it would be A Chat About Entering Public Service. Lowest grade officials bear heavy responsibilities. The lowest grade official was an expression used to refer to a lowly county magistrate with little power in ancient China. As a former county party secretary, I can attest that it is not easy at all to effectively lead a county. Speaking with colleagues, I have found that we share the same sentiment. While the office may be small, the responsibilities are not. We can compare the nation to a net. More than 3,000 counties span the nation. They are the knots holding this net together. When these knots become loose, the national political scene experiences unrest. When they remain tight, the political situation is stable. Since the specifics of government decrees are ultimately implemented through the county, the quality of work being carried out at the county level affects the prosperity and security of the nation. We can think of a county as a microcosm of society. Just as a sparrow is small but contains all the vital organs, a county has parallel departments and organizations that roughly correspond to those of the central government. Work at the county level is all-encompassing. It includes everything from political, economic, and cultural issues to the basic needs of the people at every stage of life. Some say that diplomacy is the only work not being done at the county level. Nevertheless, there are occasions when counties host foreign visitors. County leaders need to know about diplomacy so they can be ready to host the scores of foreign guests that are expected to visit as China continues to open up. A small county may be home to hundreds of thousands of residents, and a large one may be home to 1 million. The impact of policy decisions is no trivial matter. There is no room for carelessness. In Lingjun, a decree of admonishment, Hai Roy wrote, "The most challenging post for an official is that of the county magistrate." Footnote 1. A native of Qiangshan, Guangdong Province, modern Haikou, Hainan Province. Hai Roy, 1514 to 1587, served under 4 emperors in the Ming dynasty, 1368 to 1644. Known for his honesty, he is remembered as upright official Hai. End of footnote 1. Indeed, only those who are highly capable and broadly knowledgeable are competent enough to head a county. There is an old saying, "The Prime Minister has come up from the post of city or prefectural mayor." Footnote 2. See Eminence in Learning in Han Fei Zi. Born into the state of Han aristocracy, Han Fei, circa 280 to 233 BC, was a legalist philosopher from the late Warring States period, whose life epitomized the legalist school. His writings were collected into the book Han Fei Zi, source of English translation, Han Fei Zi, Eminence in Learning, in Han Fei Tzu, Basic Writings, translated by Burton Watson, New York, Columbia University Press, 1964, page 108. End of footnote 2. Many of those who hold high-ranking leadership positions in the party and the government have extensive experience doing grassroots work. The county serves as an ideal classroom for training officials and fostering their character. Leaders currently working at the county level should value the opportunity to study hard and immerse themselves in their work. They should take advantage of the chance to hone their proficiency and gain experience. 4 pitfalls for young leaders. Young leaders are the hope of the party. In the prime of life, they are full of enthusiasm and eager to try new ideas. Yet, they are not without shortcomings. As they mature, young leaders should nurture their strengths, downplay their weaknesses, and be wary of 4 potential pitfalls. The first pitfall is to be impatient for success. When young leaders assume a new position, they have a tendency to hack away at problems to get results. This ambition and drive for recognition is commendable. Without a clear understanding of the situation, however, being overeager to get results may lead to rash actions that are neither rational nor realistic. Untangling a messy knot takes patience. Footnote 3. This expression is from the biography of Gong Sui in History of the Han, compiled by the Eastern Han Dynasty's Ban Gu. History of the Han was the first Chinese work to record the history of a single dynasty through biographies. It is an important reference for studying the history of the Western Han Dynasty, 1046 to 771 BC. End of footnote 3. Those who are impatient for success run a higher risk of failure. We often say that newly appointed officials set 3 fires. In other words, they seek dramatic changes or showy policies. However, we must ask whether these fires should be set and when it is an appropriate time to set them. Any changes or policies should be based on reality. Officials need to spend more time with the people, conduct more investigations, and clarify all the nuts and bolts. After taking stock of the situation, officials should only set necessary fires. They must fight the urge to set fires just because everyone else does. After all, recklessness undermines dependability. Footnote 4. This expression comes from the 12 Hills in Wei Liaozi, written by Wei Liao during the Warring States period. Wei Liaozi is an ancient military text that developed ideas from works such as Sun Tzu's The Art of War and the Wu Zi. It has had a great influence on later generations. End of footnote 4. Of course, when troubles flare up, superiors may ask you to take swift and decisive action to ensure that everything runs smoothly. In these situations, it may be desirable to set 3 fires. However, you still want to make sure that you understand the situation before taking action. When your superiors assign you to work in an area for several years, they are not counting on your ability to set 3 fires, but rather your tenacity to climb mountains. Instead of trying to make breakthroughs that are dependent on qualitative change, I believe young officials should focus on the steady, systematic work necessary for quantitative change. I admire those who tackle problems with persistence and work with quiet dedication, like water droplets drilling through rock. I encourage officials to immerse themselves in their work and engage in long-term projects that pave the way for others. Development and change are a gradual process. Thus, qualitative change is built on the accumulation of quantitative changes. For example, history has shaped Ningde into an underdeveloped area. Quick fixes cannot change Ningda, but tenacity can. After all, streams have their beginnings in tiny droplets, and hills start out as grains of sand. An official post can never develop into a rewarding career without the will to persevere, the drive to work harder than anyone else does, and the determination to accumulate every droplet. The second pitfall is to be too opinionated. Most young officials have attended high school or college. While they may have gained considerable knowledge from books, they are still inexperienced and untested. As such, they are prone to the misconception that they alone are awake as the rest of the world sleeps, and tend to underestimate the importance of historical experience. Footnote 5. This is based on the following line from Chu Yuan's The Fisherman in Verses of Chu. Because all the world is muddy, and I alone am clear, said Chu Yuan, and because all men are drunk, and I alone am sober, I have been sent into exile. Source of English translation, Chu Yuan, 340 to 278 BC, Li Sao, on encountering trouble, in The Songs of the South, translated by David Hawkes, Harmonsworth, Penguin Books Limited, 2011, page 70. Compiled by the Western Han Dynasty's Liu Xiang, Verses of Chu is a comprehensive anthology that focuses heavily on Chu Yuan's writings and includes similar works by other authors. Its distinctive literary style, use of dialects, and depiction of local customs imbues Verses of Chu with a strong sense of place. End of footnote 5. A formal education is based on knowledge gleaned from the accumulated experience of myriads of working people. To look down on historical experience is to look down on the people. Nothing can be accomplished by separating oneself from the people or isolating oneself. From the perspective of development, human knowledge is replenished on a continual basis. No one person, not even a highly intelligent person, can possibly get to the truth of things in just one try. All one person can get to is the truth at a specific stage of development. We can only approach the truth. We can never get to the bottom of it. At best, we use a lens based on the truth at a specific stage of development to deal with matters that have evolved over the course of countless series of events. In the theory of knowledge, this leads to metaphysical errors. In practice, it leads to dogmatic errors. Whether tackling an issue from the perspective of practice or development, young officials must refrain from being too opinionated. Instead, try to keep an open mind and learn from the people and more experienced officials. Try to improve through the dialectical materialism of Marxism, and then apply Marxist views and methods to observe and handle any issues. Having an overinflated sense of self encourages the rejection of the truth, which blocks young leaders from gaining insight and sabotages the chance for success. The third pitfall is to make unpredictable changes in policy. After assuming a post, young officials will eventually hear comments about their job performance, regardless of the quality of their work. Some people will offer praise and approval, while others will voice doubts and objections. This is especially true when dealing with hotspots of society that catch the attention of the people, or pressing issues that must be handled by the officials personally. The way an official deals with these issues becomes an endless source of debate. A lack of political experience predisposes young officials to believing rumors about their performance. Heaps of praise shore up their convictions. Volleys of criticism chip away at their confidence and may even cause them to have misgivings about their handling of certain issues. These feelings are heightened when debates involve respected local figures, officials from powerful departments, and distinguished scholars. Pressure from old schoolmates, former colleagues, and fellow comrades in arms can be difficult to ignore. Moreover, when people from their hometowns or mentors offer their opinions, some young officials are flummoxed and fail to assert their own views. It is no wonder that some young leaders change their positions on issues as often as they brush their teeth. By making these unpredictable changes in policies, young officials become their own worst enemies. I believe that careful planning reduces the likelihood of bewilderment later. Before deciding on a policy, young officials should do their research, solicit a wide range of opinions, and get a firm grasp on the nature of all the issues involved. Then, consider any rules that apply, devise a plan, and make a judgment. After coming to a decision, young officials should avoid making any significant changes until after the solution has been implemented. Brave important events without trepidation. Footnote 6. See Su Shi, the fourth tactic. End of footnote 6. Maintain your composure when confronted with crises that threaten your vital interests. Footnote 7. See Su Shi, edict appointing Cheng Tong, the minister of Shan Prefecture. End of footnote 7. When debates flare up, refrain from the temptation to change course. When setbacks occur, refuse to allow bepuzzlement to take hold. Avoid chasing fads at all costs. In time, more people will recognize your staunch convictions and sound decisions. Debates will quiet down as problems are resolved. This is a gradual process that also helps you to win the recognition you deserve. The fourth pitfall is to have more ambition than ability. Young officials with a good education but little practical experience tend to fall into a trap. They are not competent enough to work on major projects, yet they are unwilling to handle minor assignments. In the end, they are nothing more than the Krikun style. Footnote 8. Krikun was the name of a journalist in Alexander Korneychuk's play Front Line, 1942. The character created news by reporting rumors and making up stories. Over the years, people have invoked his name to refer to this particular kind of journalism. End of footnote 8. Sun Yat-sen said it well. Rather than setting your sights on achieving a high rank, set your resolve to achieving great things. Footnote 9. A native of Xiangshan, modern Zhongshan, Guangdong Province, Sun Yat-sen, 1866 to 1925, was the forerunner of democratic revolution in China. He proposed the three principles of the people, which can be summarized as nationalism, democracy, and the livelihood of the people. He led the 1911 revolution that overthrew the autocratic system that had ruled China for thousands of years. Later, he reorganized the Kuomintang and implemented three major policies: unite with Russia, unite with the communists, and support farmers and workers. He facilitated Kuomintang communist cooperation and advanced the democratic revolution against imperialism and feudalism. End of footnote 9. However, great things don't just materialize out of thin air. They are achieved by accumulating small successes, because big things must have their beginnings in the small. Footnote 10. See Chapter 63 of Tao Te Ching. Source of English translation, Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching. Translation, D.C. Lau, Harmonsworth, Penguin Books Limited, 1972, page 124. End of footnote 10. Young officials need to be honest. They must be willing to do the most ordinary things, fill in the smallest gaps, and play the most insignificant roles. This is the way to gradually gain experience, win social recognition, and achieve extraordinary success while doing ordinary tasks. 4 essentials to being an official. All things have certain essentials that make up their basic nature. This includes officials who manage social affairs as a profession. Since ancient times, people have attached great importance to the essentials of being an official, or the way of an official. During the Warring States period, 475 to 221 BC, Xunzi pointed out that while rulers hold great power, power alone cannot make the world a peaceful place. Footnote 11. A native of the state of Zhao, Xunzi, circa 325 to 238 BC, was a philosopher, thinker, and educator of the late Warring States period, 475 to 221 BC. He believed that the course of nature is constant, and proposed that people who are born evil controlled their own fate by regulating what heaven has mandated and using it. Xunzi, a translation and study of the complete works. Translator, John Knobloch, Stanford University Press, 1972, pages 7 and 21. His book, Xunzi, was the first to summarize and develop the philosophical ideologies of Confucianism, Taoism, and Moism in the pre-Qin 221 to 207 BC period. End of footnote 11. He said, "What brings peace and security will inevitably be his use of the way." Footnote 12. Source of English translation, Shunzi, Book 11 of Kings and Lords Protector. In Shunzi, a translation and study of the complete works, Volume 2, translator John Knobloch, Stanford University Press, 1972, page 149. End of footnote 12. In studying the way of an official, I have learned that leading party officials must grasp the following 4 points. First, officials must have the right foundation. They must leave a positive impact with each term in office. This is in line with the purpose of our party, to serve the people. An extreme view has gained traction in our society that those who are noble and upright are above entering public service or associating with officials. Some people believe that government is a dirty place run by people with unclean hands. In my opinion, an official is simply a profession, just like doctor or sanitation worker. Society needs people to enter different lines of work. Viewed solely as a profession, there is nothing good or bad about being an official. However, there are good and bad officials. Beginning with the first day on the job, officials should ask themselves 2 questions. Why do I want to be an official? What kind of official do I want to be? After being in politics for decades, some people become trapped by fame and fortune. Some accomplish nothing at all, and still others fall from grace with a ruined reputation. These are examples of people who became officials for the wrong reasons. Before the founding of New China in 1949, people would study for many years, braving untold hardships, just so they could enter politics to honor their ancestors or put their name in the history books. Some people engaged in intrigue. They cruelly oppressed the people in order to make their fortunes by dubious means. The history of Chinese civilization is full of emperors, generals, and ministers, yet we really only remember 100 or so of them. Li Bai and Du Fu were middle-ranking officials. Footnote 13. The Tang Dynasty's Li Bai, 701 to 762, whose family was from Chengzhi, Longshi, southwest of modern Jingning, Gansu province, was born in Suyab, now in northern Kyrgyzstan. He wrote with a unique style and romanticism that had not been seen since Chu Yuan. He was one of the greatest poets of his time, in an era considered the golden age of China. End of footnote 13. Footnote 14. Du Fu, 712 to 770, was a Tang Dynasty poet. His ancestral home was Xiangyang, Hubei province, and he is believed to have been born in Gong County, southwest of modern Gongyi, Henan province. He made a point of reflecting social realities in his poems, further developing a literary tradition that had existed since the Book of Songs. His poetry stands out as one of the greatest artistic achievements in ancient China. After the Song dynasty, he was honored with the title Poet Sage and has had a profound influence on the generations of poets who followed him. End of footnote 14. Li Bing and his son built the Dujiangyan irrigation system, and Li Chun designed the Jiaozhou Bridge. Yet, they weren't high-ranking officials either. Footnote 15. Li Bing was a water conservancy specialist who lived during the Warring States period. He served as governor of Shu Prefecture from 256 to 251 BC, when he requisitioned laborers to work on irrigation projects that he initiated in the Min River basin. He is most famous for the Dujiangyan irrigation system, which he built with his son. More than 2,200 years later, the benefits brought about by this feat of engineering are still evident on the western Sichuan plain. Later generations commemorated Li Bing and his son by building two king temple at the Dujian Dam, which is celebrated for its landscapes and historic sites. End of footnote 15. Footnote 16. A craftsman from the Sui dynasty, Li Chun built the Jiaozhou Bridge between 581 and 618. Structurally unique, this graceful bridge still stands as a marvel of architecture more than 1,500 years later. End of footnote 16. Returning to the main text. For others, such as Lu Ban and Huang Daopo, becoming an official was not even an option. Footnote 17. Lu Ban, 507 to 444 BC, also known as Gangshu Ban, was a craftsman and builder in the spring and autumn period. He took his surname from his home, the state of Lu. He invented the scaling ladder, which could be used to attack a city, developed a mill to grind powder, and is believed to have invented many tools used in carpentry. Later generations have held him up as the founder of carpentry and construction. End of footnote 17. Footnote 18. Huang Daopo, 1245 to 1330, also known as Huang Po, was from Wunijing, Songjiang, modern Dongguan, Shuhui, Shanghai. She is known for the technological innovations she made in the textile industry during the Yuan dynasty, 1206 to 1368. End of footnote 18. Returning to the main text. Clearly, having a place in history is related to what a person does, not what rank that person holds. When the goal of becoming an official is to reap personal gain, people form cliques to pursue selfish political interests and violate their morals to perpetuate evil schemes. In the end, the chances of surviving with their wealth or honor intact are slim to none. An official, especially a party official, has only one purpose: to benefit the people. This is the essential difference between an official from the Chinese Communist Party and an official from the pre-1949 government. Benefiting the people requires that officials are selfless. Only then can we eliminate corruption, which in turn provides the conditions for fair government, which then opens up opportunities to help the people find peace and contentment in their lives. Benefiting the people also requires that officials understand what the people want. This involves improving the leadership's way of work, wholly engaging with the grassroots, and developing closer ties between the party and the people. Only then will we be on the same page as the people, eager to meet their needs and actively working to eradicate their worries and overcome their hardships in a timely manner. Most importantly, benefiting the people requires that officials are public servants who solve real problems for the people. Second, officials must have the right principles. To be an official requires dedication. Party officials who want to benefit the people must first be dedicated to the people. The nature and purpose of the party have determined that they are the first to worry about the affairs of the state and the last to enjoy oneself. Mao Zedong said, "The Communist Party is a political party that works for the interests of the nation and the people. The party definitely does not pursue interests of its own." Footnote 19. Source of English translation: Mao Zedong. Speech at the Assembly of Representatives of the Shaanxi, Gansu, Ningxia border region. In Selected Works of Mao Zedong, Volume 3, Beijing Foreign Languages Press, 1965, page 33. End of footnote 19. Those who become officials in the hopes of getting rich walk a very dangerous line. Those who become officials and use their power for personal gain risk a life filled with sorrow. Chen Yi warned long ago, "Don't extend your hand. The extended hand will be caught." Footnote 20. Chen Yi, 1901 to 1972, was a Chinese proletarian revolutionary, military strategist, political leader, and diplomat. He co-founded and commanded the Chinese People's Liberation Army and was the Marshal of the People's Republic of China. End of footnote 20. Party discipline and national law will not tolerate any attempts by officials to use their positions in the Communist Party to amass wealth. Centuries ago it was said, "Happy is he who is withdrawn from office." Indeed, those who become officials with the intention of living a carefree and easy life are sure to be disappointed. Being an official means taking on responsibilities. People will seek them out to complete unfinished assignments, sort out difficulties, and handle mishaps. The public will curse officials when they have grievances and need to vent. I believe that to seriously become a good party official is hard work. I have yet to hear a leader worth his salt say that being an official is a cushy job. So why do people still want to serve as officials? On a social level, an official is simply a profession. Someone has to do it. On a personal level, being an official means that one is to conform to the party's cause. Those who eschew personal gain and a carefree life for the opportunity to contribute to society and the greater good. Those who strive for communist ideals, and those who assume leadership positions despite the hardships and fatigue, will live valuable lives that give them endless joy. Third, officials must have the right morals. To be an official requires integrity. At a minimum, officials should be able to end their careers with their reputations intact. The standard for determining whether officials have conducted themselves properly must be integrity. Whether it be money or position, if a thing doesn't belong to us, we don't dare take a hair of it. Footnote 21. See Su Shi, 2 prose poems on the Red Cliff. Source of English translation: Su Shi, 2 prose poems on the Red Cliff, in Selected Poems of Su Tung Po. Translator: Burton Watson. Port Townsend, Copper Canyon Press, 1994. Page 96. End of footnote 21. Since officials hold a certain amount of power in their hands, they are at increased risks of committing mistakes when lured by money or fame. Their downfall is assured when they fail to exercise caution in their private life, do not remain vigilant against unlawful offers, or take chances engaging in illegal activities with the hope that they will not be caught. Being a leader requires using one's own moral example to win a popular following. In The Origin of the Family, Private Property, and the State, Friedrich Engels analyzed the authority of chiefs within the clans of primitive societies. He noted, the authority of the sachem within the gens was paternal and purely moral in character. Footnote 22. Source of English translation: Friedrich Engels, The Origin of the Family, Private Property, and the State. Translator: Alec West, New York, International Publishers, 1975, page 204. End of footnote 22. They had to rely on the force of example. Footnote 23. Ibid. End of footnote 23. Leaders wield great influence through their moral example, which is something that modern officials would do well to understand. If leading party officials fail to become good role models by working hard despite difficulties and remaining honest as they perform their duties, then they will fail to establish trust with the people. Fourth, officials must have the right sense of justice. To be an official requires strictly enforcing the law. This is not some personal sense of rough and tumble justice, but a commitment to promoting justice by remaining impartial and upholding morality. When the law is not strictly enforced, institutions cannot be rectified. Without strong institutions, justice cannot be upheld and morality cannot be promoted. The Northern Song dynasty's Bao Zheng believed, when decrees are carried out, order will follow, and then there will be no poorly governed nations or unenlightened people. Footnote 24. Bao Zheng, 999 to 1062, was from Hefei, Luzhou, now part of Anhui province. An upright official with a quick mind for justice, he had a reputation for strictly enforcing the law and was the epitome of an honest official in ancient China. He lived in the Northern Song dynasty, yet his deeds have been preserved for centuries in the form of popularly known stories and operas. End of footnote 24. Footnote 25. Bao Zheng, Memorial to the Emperor. End of footnote 25. Returning to the main text. Some leading officials compromise their principles in order to maintain good relations. The very nature of this behavior is antithetical to the sense of justice that an official must have. Without the right sense of justice, the law becomes obscured and institutions become lax and powerless. The reason officials lack the right sense of justice is that they do not heed their own sense of decency. Officials must remember, do not ignore your conscience. When one listens to one's conscience, there is no need to look outside oneself for answers. Strict and impartial laws combined with strong institutions pave the way for a secure and prosperous future. The facts show that wherever leaders remain impartial while conducting their work, remain steadfast against pressure from influential figures, and remain strict about enforcing the law, healthy tendencies increase and doing things becomes easier. the importance of selecting the right people. Recognizing talent and using that talent wisely is a challenge that all leaders face. V.I. Lenin said, "Study people, search for able workers. This is now the essence. All orders and decisions without this are dirty bits of paper." Footnote 26. Source of English translation, Vladimir Lenin, to A.D. Suirupa, a program for work on new lines in Collected Works, Volume 35, Moscow, Progress Publishers, 1973, page 538 through 539. End of footnote 26. While I was working in Zhengdeng County, Hebei Province, the county party committee suggested a strategy for the county. Just as Fujian takes advantage of its mountains and seas, and Qinghai develops its grasslands and forests, Zhengding County should focus on talent. A strategy focusing on talent can be summarized with 5 words: identify, choose, judge, respect, and nurture. Leaders need to be able to define and identify talent. In ancient China, talented people were described as those who had ethics, magnanimity, abilities, aspirations, and accomplishments. Ethics generally refer to the ability to maintain personal integrity while engaged in political affairs. The current standard for ethics can be summarized with these words from Mao Zedong: versed in Marxism-Leninism, politically far-sighted, competent in work, full of the spirit of self-sacrifice, capable of tackling problems on their own, steadfast in the midst of difficulties, and loyal and devoted in serving the nation, the class, and the party. Footnote 27. Source of English translation, Mao Zedong. Win the masses in their millions for the anti-Japanese National United Front. In Selected Works of Mao Zedong, Volume 1, Beijing, Foreign Languages Press, 1965, page 291. End of footnote 27. Magnanimity refers to the ability to accept correct ideas and accommodate exceptional talent. Abilities refer to having creativity, knowing how to guide people and ideas, and being able to adapt to change. Aspirations refer to having lofty ideals, staunch determination, and tenacity. Accomplishments refer to achievements in one's official career. In other words, it describes people who dive into their work with enthusiasm and do their best to contribute to society. These leaders recognize that each person has their own role to play and are committed to helping them live and work in peace. Simply having a standard for identifying talent is not enough. We also need to have a method for recognizing talent. In Assessing Others, a chapter from the Annals of Lu Bu Wei, people are evaluated based on 8 examinations and 6 tests. Footnote 28. A native of Puyang in the state of Wei, modern Anyang, Henan Province, Lu Bu Wei, 292 to 235 BC, was a well-known merchant and politician from the late Warring States period, 475 to 221 BC. He summoned scholars to compile the Annals of Lu Bu Wei, a comprehensive text that combined teachings from various schools of thought. The subject matter was drawn primarily from Confucian and Taoist philosophy, but also included ideas from logicians, legalists, Moists, agriculturalists, and the school of naturalists. The Annals of Lu Bu Wei became an ideological tool that the state of Qin used to unify and govern the land. End of footnote 28. Footnote 29. This is a method that rulers used to evaluate their subjects. It refers to 8 types of conduct and 6 ways to observe behavior. Source of English translation, Lu Bu Wei, Book 3, 4 Lun Rin. In The Annals of Lu Bu Wei. Translators, John Knobloch and Jeffrey Regal. Stanford University Press, 2000, page 109. End of footnote 29. The 8 examinations include advice, such as listen to their remarks and observe their conduct. Footnote 30. Source of English translation, Confucius, Book 5, in the Analects of Confucius, translated by Burton Watson, New York, Columbia University Press, 2007, page 37. End of footnote 30. This is a very important point because some people like to exaggerate. Since their actions always fall short of their promises, they use phony gestures to try to handle other people. Leaders who choose to use talent like this will end up with a lot of headaches. One of the 6 tests suggests give them hard work in order to test their resolve. Such advice allows us to draw on a wealth of experience that we can then apply to our own work. Ningda is a poor place that needs dedicated people who are not afraid of really tough work. When we evaluate leaders, our emphasis is not on whether they can get amazing results right away, but on whether they have been dedicated to laying the groundwork for long-term projects. It is not realistic to think you can transform a poor place like Ningda overnight. However, if you give it your all and keep your nose to the grindstone, then you are the kind of talent we need. Leaders need to be able to recommend talented people and use them wisely. The key is to recommend those who are virtuous and employ those who are capable. In other words, we should recommend people on the basis of talent and appoint only those who are worthy. Some of the worst mistakes a leader can make are to appoint people based on favoritism, assign rank according to seniority, and limit the talent pool to specific regions. In Exalting Worthiness 2, a volume from Moses, the author said that when wise rulers chose talented people, there were no factions with fathers and older brothers, no partiality towards the noble and rich, and no favoritism towards those of fine appearance. Footnote 31. The Moses is a compilation of writings from the Moist school of thought. It is the primary reference for any study of Moses and Moism. End of footnote 31. Footnote 32. Source of English translation, Moses, Exalting Worthiness 2, in the Moses, a complete translation. Translator, Ian Johnston, New York, Columbia University Press, 2000, page 63. End of footnote 32. Returning to the main text. In Ming Liang Lun, Gong Ji criticized the government officials for giving out promotions based on seniority. Footnote 33. A native of Renhe, modern Hangzhou, Zhejiang Province, Gong Zijun, 1792 to 1841, was a thinker and writer from the Qing dynasty, 1644 to 1911. End of footnote 33. In his memorial to the throne against the expulsion of guest advisors, Li Si warned against the danger of only employing people from certain areas. Footnote 34. A native of Shanghai in the state of Chu, modern Henan province, Li Se, unknown to 208 BC, was a statesman of the Qin dynasty, 221 to 207 BC. End of footnote 34. His arguments were very insightful. I believe that the Chinese Communist Party has only one standard for choosing talent, the 4 criteria, which are applied to everyone based on merit. Footnote 35. In order to meet the 4 criteria, officials should be revolutionary, young, knowledgeable, and professional. End of footnote 35. Regardless of where you call home, you will be promoted if you can satisfy the 4 criteria, regardless of how much seniority you have. You will be promoted if you can get the job done right. Leaders need to be able to judge a person's talent before awarding an appointment. Judging a person is similar to choosing a tool. We want to pick the one that is best suited to a project. Nevertheless, everyone has their strong and weak points, so we should not use rigid standards when judging talent. Footnote 36. See Chu Yuan, Buju, divination, in verses of Chu. End of footnote 36. A steed that can run 1,000 miles should not be made a poor plow horse, and a boat that can cross a river should not be stuck on land. Talent that is misplaced is apt to be wasted. When discussing the best way to make use of talent, Chen Yun emphasized, try to make a perfect marriage between a person's talents and the work requirements. Employ talented people correctly and appoint them to suitable positions. Footnote 37. A native of Qingpu, now part of Shanghai, Jiangsu Province, Chen Yun, 1905 to 1995, was a Marxist, Chinese proletarian revolutionary, and statesman. He was one of the principal leaders of the Communist Party of China and the People's Republic of China. He was one of the architects who laid the foundation for socialist economic construction in China. End of footnote 37. Leaders need to be able to respect a person's talents. This means respecting their individuality and creativity by not stifling or ignoring their abilities. It requires leaders to take an interest in talented people and value what they bring to the table. After all, we cannot expect a horse to run if we do not let it graze. Leaders must have confidence in their people. There is no point in trusting them with responsibilities only to mistreat them or express misgivings about them later. This will cause discord and dissension between leaders and the talented people who make up their teams. It is a recipe for disaster. The Tang Dynasty's Wei Zheng said, when a ruler wisely employs his subjects' talents, his subjects pledge complete loyalty to him. A ruler who lacks confidence in his subjects cannot use them well. Subjects who lack confidence in their ruler cannot serve him well. Footnote 38. A native of Julu Prefecture, modern Hebei Province, Wei Zheng, 584 to 643, was a statesman of the early Tang Dynasty. His words are recorded in Essentials of Government of the Zhengyuan reign. End of footnote 38. Footnote 39. See Sincerity and Honesty in Essentials of Government of the Jingguan Reign. Compiled by the Tang Dynasty's Wu Jing. This text was published during the reign of Emperor Xuanzong. End of footnote 39. Returning to the main text. Although Wei Zheng's remarks include some feudal ideas, we still can get valuable advice to apply to our own work. Leaders need to be able to nurture talented people. In order to find worthy people, leaders must foster new talents. A ruler who does not invest in educated men yet seeks worthy subjects is similar to an artisan who refuses to cut and polish a piece of jade, yet expects to find a beautifully decorated treasure. Footnote 40. See Dongzhong Shu. The second strategy in the strategies to elevate the worthy. End of footnote 40. I believe that mature leaders know how to cultivate talented people. They recognize that nurturing new talents is vital to ensuring that future generations have worthy leaders to advance our great cause. If leaders want to nurture talented people, they must take great pains to support them, enforce strict demands on them, and make bold use of them. The self-cultivation of leaders. In ancient times, people described the standard for governing the country in a few short phrases. One's character refined, the family in order, the nation governed, and the world at peace. Footnote 41. See the great learning in the Book of Rights. They believed that the ability of leaders to refine their character was so important, they listed it first. Refining one's character is really just another way to say that leaders need to practice self-cultivation. In my opinion, this requires that leaders meet 5 conditions. First, party leaders must have the party spirit. The spirit of the Communist Party of China is expressed when leaders serve the people with their whole heart. According to Karl Marx, the proletariat can only emancipate themselves when they have emancipated all humanity. The Communist Party of China is the political party of the proletariat. The nature of the party determines that party members must wholeheartedly serve the people. When leaders do this, they strengthen the party spirit and meet the first condition for self-cultivation. If leaders do not have the party spirit, then there is no point discussing anything else. The most effective way for leaders to strengthen the party spirit is to go down to the grassroots and immerse themselves among the people. Lenin said, "And it is therefore our duty, if we wish to remain socialists, to go down lower and deeper, to the real masses." Footnote 42. Source of English translation, Vladimir Lenin, Imperialism and the Split in Socialism. In Collected Works, Volume 23, Moscow, Progress Publishers, 1974, page 120. End of footnote 42. Going down to the grassroots and working shoulder to shoulder with the people are 2 of the most direct ways of serving them. Toward the end of 1988, I participated in a working conference of the Ningde Prefectural Party Committee, where we raised the idea of improving the leadership's way of work. Our ideas were later developed into the 4 grassroots initiatives. The first initiative was to go down to the grassroots to publicize the party's guideline, principles, and policies. The second initiative was to work with the grassroots to conduct investigations and research. The third initiative was to investigate complaints and listen to ideas at the grassroots level. The fourth initiative was to go down to the grassroots to handle official business on the spot. Many party members are sent to extremely remote, impoverished areas where they learn about the people's suffering firsthand. It has been a very moving experience. Upon their return, party members always say that they have developed more empathy for the people, and they feel a stronger sense of responsibility to serve them. I believe that experiences like these strengthen the party spirit and foster self-cultivation. Second, party leaders must be magnanimous. A petty man is neither talented nor virtuous. A man of virtue is capable and brave. Footnote 43. See Anonymous from the Song Dynasty. Collections of writings of famous worthies. End of footnote 43. To a certain extent, our successes in life are determined by our talents. Whether we make the most of our talents is determined by our magnanimity. Sima Guang said, "Efforts fail when authority is usurped. They succeed when there are joint efforts." Footnote 44. See Sima Guang, 1019 to 1086. Preface to the argument for great achievements through joint efforts. End of footnote 44. I believe these words offer much insight. When people usurp authority, they are being narrow-minded. When people are narrow-minded, they become separated from one another. And when people are separated from one another, they become destitute. However, when people make joint efforts, their world expands. When their world expands, obstacles are removed. And when obstacles are removed, people succeed. People who are narrow-minded stubbornly push their own agenda. They cannot accept reasonable ideas that are not their own, nor can they incorporate them to expand their own views. They act as though they have accomplished great deeds, but they are too afraid to employ the talented and virtuous to increase their own power. The fear that others will surpass them pushes narrow-minded people to attack and slander others in an attempt to raise themselves up. Communists, on the other hand, believe it is our responsibility to emancipate all humanity. Communists do not care about personal fame or fortune. We help others climb the ladder of success. We lay the groundwork for everyone else. The party's mission and historical practice are a good starting point for anyone who would like to better understand this issue. Third, party leaders must have moral courage. A quick look at human history suggests that the people who accomplished great things were those who had great character. Karl Marx finished writing Capital, a critique of political economy, when he was at his most destitute. In February 1852, he wrote a letter to Engels saying, "A week ago, I reached the pleasant point where I am unable to go out for want of the coats I have in pawn, and can no longer eat meat for want of credit." Footnote 45, source of English translation, Karl Marx, letter from Marx to Engels, 27 February, in Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Collected Works, Volume 39, New York, International Publishers, 1983, page 50, end of footnote 45. Yet even then, Marx did not yield. He refused to stop working. Defying hardships while staying true to the doctrine shows the moral courage of a revolutionary proletariat. In ancient China, Confucius praised the strong will of those people who refused to submit to brute force. Footnote 46. A native of Zhou, in the state of Lu, modern Qufu, Shandong province, Confucius, 551 to 479 BC, was a thinker, educator, and statesman of the late spring and autumn period, 770 to 476 BC. The founder of Confucianism, he created a school of thought with benevolence at its core, and conceived of an ideology rich in philosophical wisdom. Dedicated to education, he compiled ancient texts, including Classic of Poetry and Classic of Documents, and revised the Spring and Autumn Annals. The Analects of Confucius is a collection of his theories and ideas. Known by emperors as the Sage, his teachings have helped shape traditional Chinese culture for more than 2,000 years. End of footnote 46. Confucius said, "The three armies may be stripped of their commander, but even a simple commoner cannot be deprived of his will." Footnote 47. This is a line from Book 9 in the Analects of Confucius. Source of English translation, Confucius, Book 9 in the Analects of Confucius. Translator, Burton Watson, New York, Columbia University Press, 2007, page 63. End of footnote 47. Mencius also offered guidance about the kind of integrity that is necessary to conduct oneself properly in the world. Footnote 48. A native of the state of Zhou, modern Zhou City, Shandong province, Mencius, circa 372 to 289 BC, was a thinker, philosopher, and educator of the Warring States period, 475 to 221 BC. He maintained that man is an integral part of nature, proposed that human nature is good, and identified four cardinal virtues: benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom. He further developed the Confucian concepts of benevolence and rule by virtue, and proposed that subjects were more important than their rulers. For defending Confucian principles and developing Confucian orthodoxy, he is called the second sage of Confucianism. The Mencius is a compilation of anecdotes and open discussion between Mencius and his disciples. End of footnote 48. Mencius suggested modeling ourselves on people who cannot be led astray by riches and honor, moved by poverty and privation, or deflected by power or force. Footnote 49. This is a line from Book 3b in Mencius. Source of English translation, Mencius, Book 3b in Mencius. Translator, Irene Bloom, New York, Columbia University Press, 2009, page 62. End of footnote 49. I believe that moral courage is a quality every leader must have. Without it, leaders have no backbone. When talking about moral courage, we should be aware not to become dogmatic. A disciple of Confucius has had the tassel on his helmet sliced off by his enemy while on the battlefield in the midst of a desperate fight. Believing this was an affront to his moral courage, the man lay down his arms to pick up the tassel. In that moment, He put more value on affixing the tassel, which symbolized his position as an official, than on fending off a fatal attack from the enemy. This is an example of dogmatism. Moral courage is called for when we talk about issues of principle. When we are faced with issues that do not involve principles, tactics should be the primary consideration. Fourth, party leaders must be honest. They need to speak honestly, work honestly, and act honestly. Do honest people usually get the short end of the stick? Some people think they do, but that is not how I see it. Seeking truth from facts lies at the very heart of Marxism. When we make a point of seeking truth from facts as we go about our lives, we speak honestly, work honestly, and act honestly. When we do not seek truth from facts, or we refuse to follow objective rules as we conduct our business, there may be times when we get the better of someone else, but ultimately we will run into problems and come out the loser. History has taught us that much. How do we speak honestly, work honestly, and act honestly? First, we always start with both feet firmly placed in reality. We respect the facts. We respect science. We stick out our necks to insist on the truth and avoid being easily swayed when problems crop up. We refuse to offer blind obedience to our superiors or to believe only what we read in books. Instead, we start from the real situation on the ground. Second, we work more and talk less. Or perhaps we just work hard without boasting how dedicated we are. Our ancestors said that moral conduct is expressed through one's own actions. Good reputation can only be confirmed when others recognize it. One who is wise discriminates in his mind, but does not complicate his words. He exerts his strength and does not brag about his achievement. In this way, his reputation and praise spread through the world. Footnote 50. This is a line from On Cultivating the Self in the Moza. The Moza was written and compiled by followers of the Moist school. Source of English translation, Moza on Cultivating the Self, in the Moza, a complete translation. Translator, Ian Johnston, New York, Columbia University Press, 2010, page 13. End of footnote 50. People who exaggerate about their contributions and accomplishments will never develop a good reputation. Third, be honest in your dealings with people. If you can do that, leaders will want to employ you, colleagues will want to work with you, and subordinates will want to follow you. Fifth, party leaders must be bold. Their work is all-inclusive and ever-changing. It demands that they are prepared to face an untold number of complicated situations. Leaders must be bold enough to cut to the heart of matters. If they hesitate all the time or fail to make decisions when they should, it will have a negative effect on their work. Nevertheless, leaders are not being bold when they make impulsive decisions, divorcing them from objective laws. As Engels said, freedom of the will, therefore, means nothing but the capacity to make decisions with knowledge of the subject. Footnote 51. Source of English translation, Friedrich Engels. Herr Düring's Revolution in Science. Translator, Emil Burns. New York, International Publishers, 1966. Page 125. End of footnote 51. Leaders should cultivate boldness and exercise greater freedom of the will. The only way they can do this is by following Engel's advice. They need to go deep into the realities of life and become knowledgeable about the outside world. This is the only way for leaders to properly handle complex issues in a bold and resolute manner. For communists, self-cultivation is not about sitting in meditation with our face towards the wall. Instead, it involves refining our actions and accumulating experience. As communists, we don't view success as something handed down by immortal beings or gods. Instead, it is the inevitable result of practice. According to Marx, in remaking the world, the proletariat would remake themselves. As communists, we strengthen self-cultivation and achieve success when we engage in the social practices of remaking the world. The road to perfection requires constant practice. Constant practice yields sure success. Strengthening self-cultivation through practice and achieving success through practice are important principles. As communists, we should abide by these principles so that we might make great contributions and accomplish great things. The nature of a secretary's work. An intimate discussion with officials in prefecture and county general offices, March 1990. The general office is a key department within a unit, system, and organ. How the work of general officers is conducted has a great impact on the work of the party committees and even an entire region. Therefore, leaders in every location are concerned with and show great care for the work of their general office. Planning takes place within the tents of command. Victory is achieved thousands of miles away. Footnote 1. See Sima Qian, 145 to 90 BC. The Basic Annals of Emperor Gaozu, in Records of the Grand Historian. End of footnote 1. If the general office is well run, we can guarantee that all work will be smoothly carried out. 1. 4 characteristics of office work. I previously worked as a secretary in the general office of the Central Military Commission, so I am a colleague of you all. I later worked in county, city, and prefecture party committees and governments, and I am intimately familiar with their relationships to their general offices. From my experiences, I have learned that there are 4 words that best describe the work of the general office. First is important. The position is an important one. The work of the general office can be summed up in 3 parts: playing a policy advisory and brain trust role, serving those both above and below them, and secret and confidential work. All of these are important tasks. In 1975, Deng Xiaoping said while talking about rectification that these people are critical to the work in any given place. Director of the General Office, Chief of the Public Security Bureau, and Head of the Organization Department. This shows the importance of the work of the General Office. Since it advises decision-making, the General Office always works closely with the leading authorities. When done well, advisory work can advance the smooth implementation of party principles and policies. When not done well, it will impact the big picture and even lead to serious consequences. Within a work unit, the General Office is the gatekeeper for the core secrets of leading authorities, and any leaks will harm the party and the nation. Even something like a leak of confidential personnel information from our prefecture would impact the unity of the leadership and stir up emotions. The general office also serves as a window to the outside. The impressions grassroots officials and visiting officials make of our prefecture and leaders are related, to a great extent, to the work of the general office. When the quality of work is outstanding, people will say that this place does good work. If office personnel do sloppy work or take on brash attitudes, people will think that the work done in this place must be a mess. Therefore, the work of the general office is closely related to the overall work. Second is hard. Office work is not a walk in the park. Everyone working in the general office experiences hardships, with in-trays that are never empty, frequent calls to work overtime, and even working through the night. Even the arrival of Saturday does not guarantee free time. Secretaries rushing to meet deadlines have it even harder, as their work is extremely intense and the workload is particularly burdensome. Liu Jun, of the Eastern Han Dynasty, described such work vividly in a poem. Riding all day without stopping to eat, skipping dinner when the sun goes down. After burying my head in books all day, I return home with eyes in a daze. Footnote 2. A native of Ningyang, Dongping, modern Shandong province, Liu Jun, 186 to 217, was a scholar of the Eastern Han Dynasty, 25 to 220. He was one of the 7 leading writers from the Jiannan period. End of footnote 2. Such is a secretary's life. Third is complex. The job is quite complicated. Work in the general office ranges all the way from top-level affairs of state and important decisions to indoor sanitation and officials' welfare, from receiving top leaders to contacting ordinary citizens, and from the innermost secrets to public sentiments, everything is fair game. Internal work may cover things such as research, information, investigations, petitions, reception, classified information, archiving, printing, and dispatching. Office officials have to deal with several dozens and even hundreds of matters each day. We are constantly being pulled in every direction and feel like what the poet said, that it is so beautiful on the Shanyin Road that one can hardly catch all the scenes along the way. Footnote 3. This is based on the following line from Speech and Conversation in a new account of Tales of the World by the Song Dynasty's Liu Yiqing. Whenever I travel by the Shanyin Road, the hills and streams naturally complement each other in such a way that I can't begin to describe them. And especially if it's at the turning point between autumn and winter, I find it all the harder to express what's in my heart. Source of English translation: Liu Yiqing, A New Account of Tales of the World. Translator: Richard B. Mather, Minneapolis, University of Minnesota Press, 1976, page 71. Mather's English translation was revised to be consistent with the rest of the text. End of footnote 3. Fourth is difficult. The level of difficulty is quite high. The work of the general office is all-encompassing and open in every direction. We both have to manage relationships all around us and also adapt to the leaders' work styles and methods and serve them well. There are a million things to take care of when it comes to implementing tasks assigned by leaders. Some of these things must be done immediately without delay, and some are continual, ongoing tasks that must be attended to at all times. It takes incredible concentration and a continual state of heightened awareness to determine what is most urgent and what can wait, and not overlook things or make mistakes. At the same time, the general office deals with many everyday affairs. When achievements are made, those of us who work in general offices do not receive credit and remain unsung heroes behind the scenes. When there are problems, we may become the focus of everyone's attention, which can make us run the gamut of emotions until the situation is resolved. Sometimes we will be blamed for others' mistakes and make accommodations for the sake of overall interests. This type of situation is truly difficult to deal with. In a sense, each task is a result of the hard work and dedication of our general office colleagues. 2. 3 wishes for the work of general offices. How should we perform the work of general offices? All of you are the most qualified to speak on this subject. I can only express 3 wishes based on my own experiences and work. My first wish: have a strong sense of responsibility. The work of the general office affects all work. This requires that all of our office colleagues have a strong initiative, earnest work attitude, and scrupulous work style. The work of the general office involves many secrets, and there are specific rules on where each document can and cannot go, which must be carefully followed. In particular, some matters involve political and economic intelligence, requiring from us an even greater sense of responsibility, habit of maintaining silence, and restraint from opening one's mouth where one shouldn't. The work must be done meticulously. As the old saying goes, one word out of place can wreck the entire sentence. One mistaken sentence can throw off the entire passage. Footnote 4. This is a line from Liu Chi's Preface to Compendium of Auxiliary Characters, a highly technical reference for the study of grammatical function words in ancient Chinese texts. It was first printed in 1711 during the reign of Emperor Kangxi. End of footnote 4. Documents drafted in the general office don't need to be written in flowery language, but they must be carefully completed. This is not an over-the-top requirement, as it is directly related to decision-making. Therefore, we must train and employ workers who can deftly wield the pen, so the leaders don't have to rack their brains for the right choice of words. This is a minimum requirement. Except when we are working under tight deadlines, all written materials we send to our leaders to look over must be a clean copy. We cannot look on this as being additional work. If all sorts of revisions are made on a messy draft for which we cannot tell who made the final revision, no one can be held responsible for the final document. Therefore, we must have a strict manner of work that has a high degree of responsibility and strong sense of initiative. The general office is the main organ of a work unit, and it must always be acting as a model for the entire unit. It must pay attention to all aspects of work, including reception, sanitation, and impressions it makes on people. As part of the office, secretaries of leading officials often relay the leader's intentions and handle matters on their behalf. Their quality and manner of work directly reflects the spirit and appearance of the leading organ. Therefore, the general office must care about the political and work performance of these secretaries. The general office should make sure that they receive criticism for poor performance and that they frequently report on their thoughts and work. Secretaries serve the leaders out of a need for their work and do not have any political privileges. On the whole, the general office is a complete machine. This machine requires a clear responsibility system, strict management, and sensible measures, so those of us working on it will know our position, act within the rules, perform our given duties, and take up our responsibilities. We must react nimbly, operate quickly, and adapt to the needs of all sides. My second wish: work with high efficiency. The general office has to handle many tasks each day and resolve conflicts and problems in all sorts of places. This means that we must always be improving our work efficiency. Otherwise, we will not be able to properly provide the three services, and this will impact the work in general of the entire prefecture. Footnote 5. At a national symposium for senior party secretaries from general offices held in 1985, the director of the General Office of the CPC Central Committee, Wang Jiao-go, put forward the concept of the three services, which are serving the leadership, serving government offices at all levels, and serving the people. End of footnote 5. To improve our work efficiency, I believe that we must learn to apply dialectics, be clear about priorities, and earnestly reflect. We must plan based on importance, arrange based on urgency, connect with above and below, and balance between internal and external. Footnote 6. See Feng Ming Long, Chapter 26, Chronicles of the Eastern Zhou Kingdoms. A native of Changzhou, modern Suzhou, Jiangsu Province, Feng Ming Long, 1574 to 1646, was a writer and dramatist of the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644. He was dedicated to studying, organizing, and writing popular literature, such as novels and operas. End of footnote 6. That is, we must make use of the office as a whole. Consider what affairs are major and urgent. Always keep our eye on matters of great importance. Get a handle on urgent tasks first. We must communicate with all those around us. Let those below us know what is happening above, and remember the difference between the internal and external. All tasks must be properly assessed and methodically completed. Another important job that the General Office performs is in its advisory role. The office is expected to promptly provide policy recommendations and solidify leaders' decisions into concrete opinions. If our office can analyze situations from every angle, just like foreign think tanks do, and frequently offer suggestions for major policy decisions, it can greatly help the leaders to make decisions and choices. Currently, there are many tough problems and hot-button issues in our economic development and social work. They require us to conduct thorough investigation and research, provide targeted measures for analyzing and resolving problems, and offer leaders at all levels valuable policy references. My third wish: provide high-level service. Providing service is an important job of the General Office. First, I want to emphasize the notion of providing service both before and after events occur. For example, when an important prefecture and county meeting is held, staff in the General Office must get in place beforehand. In particular, the office director, meeting secretary, and extra office hands must arrive early to prepare for the meeting. After the meeting, they must write up minutes and documents and check up on implementation and feedback. Next, the service must be prompt and thorough. The General Office must help share the burden of our leaders. Third, our service must take full responsibility and leave nothing overlooked. For example, when our office runs on a strict 24-hour schedule, those on duty cannot leave even for a minute. If an emergency or major incident suddenly occurs while the office is empty, lack of timely response will not only be considered negligence, but also have consequences. Fourth, our service not only must be diligent and earnest, but also agile. For example, we must put forth our best effort when receiving guests. We should establish a set of guidelines for reception, organize a hospitality team, and prepare consistent promotional materials and reports. Going forward, we can have designated officials responsible for reporting and accompanying visits. Meals can feature local products and traditions as long as they comply with applicable standards. Each county can prepare its own local menu that is both unique and economical. In this way, everyone can enjoy a good meal and learn about the local food culture within the limits set by the standards. Why not show our hospitality with such a simple gesture? Prefecture and county leaders should attend events in accordance with the rules and reduce participation in mere courtesy events to the extent possible. Those involved in reception work should serve the guests with warmth and consideration. Put yourself in their shoes. Think about what they will need and help resolve their problems. 3. Office secretaries should strengthen self-cultivation. Secretary is a special profession. Many people believe that the most prominent feature of a secretary's work is serving in a supportive role like a supporting actor. I think this is both right and wrong. It is right in that a secretary truly does supportive and foundational work as the leader's assistant. It is wrong in that a secretary has even less space than a supporting actor on the stage, as the secretary has no spoken lines or opportunities to share the spotlight. The nature of the secretary's work means that he/she must have the proper attitude toward fame, fortune, and honor, with a selfless spirit, and continually strengthen self-cultivation. How can secretaries strengthen their self-cultivation? During the Song dynasty, Liu Binzhong, in his famous admonishments to officials, argued that all officials must be clean, prudent, and diligent. Footnote 7. A native of Shou Prefecture, modern Fengtai, Anhui Province, Liu Binzhong, 1084 to 1145, was a poet of the Southern Song dynasty, 1127 to 1279. End of footnote 7. I think that if we update his ideas for today's age, they can serve as the minimum requirements for staff in the general office, in particular, secretaries to leading officials. To be clean means to act with integrity and have nothing to hide. To be prudent means to give careful consideration and be cautious in words and deeds. To be diligent means to study hard and do our best to advance. Of course, these three requirements must be met while remaining politically and ideologically faithful to the party central committee. Secretaries must always be studying Marxism-Leninism, Mao Zedong thought, party guideline, principles, and policies, and the issues of our times. In this way, we can continually deepen our understanding of theories and improve our political qualities. Given the special nature of the work of a secretary, it is not enough just to work hard. I personally have experienced that secretaries must not only strengthen self-cultivation, but also focus on developing good manner of work. Take note of the little details in personal life, and strive to stay away from 5 things. First, don't be self-conceited. We cannot mistakenly believe that we have nothing to fear just because our organization has a big name and our leaders will back us up. Nor can we allow the misuse of the names of our leaders and of the office to seek out personal profit. Second, Don't be arrogant. We must check our sense of superiority and never be domineering, arrogant, bossy, or commanding with grassroots officials and people. Third, don't be boastful. We must not show off or brag. When it comes to the work and personal life of a leader, we cannot discuss it publicly or make presumptuous comments, and a tight lid must be kept on internal party secrets. Fourth, don't be ashamed of yourself. We must overcome the urge to underestimate ourselves or feel like we are not up to the task. We cannot open our mouths only to stutter and take a step only to stumble. We cannot be mindless yes-men with no views of our own. Fifth, don't get a big head. We must not think we have all the answers and change or add our own views to our leaders' instructions. We cannot be careless, do the bare minimum to get by, or not take our duties seriously. In general, secretaries must frequently check whether our own thinking and work are in position. It cannot be misplaced or overreach. In our relationships with our leaders, we must strive to participate and not interfere, assist and not exceed our authority, and comply but not follow blindly. I believe that as long as we are always clear about our own position, we can become secretaries fully qualified for the job. 4. Prefecture and county party committees must support general offices. Local party committee leaders must understand, trust, and respect the work of the general office in order to truly support and make full use of it. First, due attention must be given to the party committee's work on the general office. Prefecture and county party committees must hold special meetings each year to discuss the work of their general offices and help them resolve actual problems. Leading officials of prefecture and county party committees should frequently communicate with the staff of the general office to share thoughts, discuss work, and listen to everyone's opinions and suggestions. Second, leaders must involve themselves with office team building. Now we are facing the difficulties of selecting, transferring, and promoting officials in relation to the general office. By difficulty of selecting, I mean it is hard to find candidates with superior political qualities and writing skills. Even when we do find good candidates, it is still difficult to get them to work in our general offices for various reasons. This is the difficulty of transferring. Due to the limited number of job openings, it is also difficult to promote officials who have worked hard in the general office for a long time, who diligently do their jobs without complaint, and who perform exceptionally well. Our leaders must be determined to resolve these problems. One measure to take is to set strict entrance and exit criteria. We cannot compromise on the criteria for new hires. Incoming colleagues must be politically reliable and of excellent character. I want to stress that we must be able to transfer suitable people within our prefecture as we deem fit. To truly resolve the problem of difficulties in selection and transfers, there should be no bargaining or restrictions by department or locality. Personnel departments must also boldly promote and employ qualified office officials and resolve the issue of office personnel hanging around in the same positions for too long. We cannot afford to play favorites in general offices. Those who are not suited to such work should immediately be transferred out. If office personnel have lax work attitudes, take too many liberties, and have poor political and professional qualities, the image of party committees will suffer. Leading officials of prefecture and county party committees should be informed about key personnel changes in general offices. On the whole, we must step up office team building and ensure that staff bring vigor to their office work so that general offices continue to run effectively. Third, leaders must show concern for the learning, life, and political progress of our office colleagues. On the one hand, we must create favorable conditions for all who work in general offices, including organizing study sessions and tours out of the office, as we can only improve the level of our policies by gaining a better understanding of the situation outside the office. Office work is fast-paced, but we must still schedule study sessions and let our colleagues in general offices step away from their desks for new learning. On the other hand, we must also acknowledge the hardships office staff encounter in their lives. On top of performing hard work on the job, our colleagues in general offices lead very plain lives, and their families often have unmet needs. However, these colleagues have made the conscious choice of dedicating themselves to the party, taking on responsibility for their work, and making contributions behind the scene. Such a choice of theirs is all the more reason for our leaders to recognize the sacrifices of our colleagues working in general offices. In particular, leaders should do their best to help address concerns that our office colleagues have about schooling for their children, housing, and other difficulties in their lives, so such problems will not come back to bite us in the end. Water droplets drilling through rock. March 1990. Upon settling in the countryside, I saw firsthand the power of dripping water drilling through rock. That image, which captured the spirit of persistence, has stayed with me all these years. It has become a well-worn source for contemplating life and movement. Rock and water are two opposing elements that are used to symbolize dogged stubbornness and gentle fluidity. Yet despite being gentle, water will drill through solid rock over time. As a metaphor for people, this is the embodiment of a certain moral character. It is the willingness to rise to fight each time one falls and the courage to sacrifice oneself. A single drop of water is small and insubstantial. It will die a cruel death in any battle with a rock. Yet in that brief moment of sacrifice, even though it cannot see its own value and achievement, it is embodied within the countless drops of water that have already fallen, and the triumph of finally drilling through the rock. From the perspective of history or development of an economically disadvantaged area, we should not seek personal success and fame. Instead, we should strive to make steady progress, one small step at a time, and be willing to lay the groundwork for overall success. When everyone doing our work models themselves on a droplet that is ready to sacrifice for the greater good, we need not worry that our work is not important enough to make lasting change. As a metaphor for things, dripping water is a demonstration of dialectical principles that use softness to overcome hardness and the weak to control the strong. I believe in the invaluable spirit of that drop of water, which bravely goes into the breach with no thought of retreat. Those of us who are involved in economic development will inevitably encounter complications in our work. We can either rise to the challenge or flinch and run away. It all depends on whether we have the courage to adhere to philosophical materialism. If we allow ourselves to be filled with trepidation, the kind of fear that comes from standing at the edge of an abyss or treading on thin ice, we will lack the courage to do anything. We will accomplish nothing. Nevertheless, courage alone is not enough. When dripping water takes aim at a rock, each droplet zeroes in on the same target and stays the course until its mission is complete. The drops of water fall day after day, year after year. This is the magic that enables dripping water to drill through rock. How can it be that our economic development work is any different? Just look at areas where the economy is lagging. Historical, environmental, and geographical factors have all played a part in holding back development. There are no shortcuts. Nothing can change overnight. Instead, we need to focus on the long haul by turning quantitative changes into qualitative changes. We need to be the dripping water that drills through rock. When talking about reform and opening up, we cannot assume that help will be coming from left and right, nor can we afford to wait until conditions are perfect enough to ensure success. Instead of building palaces in the air, we need to square our shoulders and get down to work. When talking about economic development, we cannot simply race to build high-rises and open up big factories, nor can we focus on dramatic results at the expense of necessary infrastructure. Otherwise, success will be elusive and opportunities will be easily missed. Instead of daydreaming about overly ambitious or flashy projects, we need to have a firm footing in reality as we take concrete steps to reach long-term goals. Instead of setting 3 fires in the hope they will succeed, we need to work steadily and make solid progress. Our work calls for the tenacity to keep chipping away. Working by fits and starts will not get us anywhere. When I describe my awe upon seeing the power of droplets drilling through rock, I am praising those who have the willingness to rise each time one falls, and the moral character to sacrifice for overall success. I am expressing my admiration for those who develop a solid plan and then have the tenacity to see it through to the end. Always keeping the people in mind. On handling petition work in the new situation. April 1990. Petition departments are the bridges linking the party and government with the people, as well as the windows opening to the sentiments of the people. Chen Ziyang of the Tang Dynasty wrote in a poem, "The sage does not look to benefit himself. He worries for and aids the common folk." Footnote 1. Chen Ziyang, Poem 19, in Stirred by My Experiences, a series of 38 poems. A native of Shehong, Zi Prefecture, now part of Sichuan Province, Chen Ziyang, 659 to 700, was a writer of the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907. An early innovator of Tang Dynasty poetry, he had a significant influence on its development. End of footnote 1. That is, virtuous people do not pursue advantage for themselves, and instead they care about and help the ordinary people. It would have been quite an achievement for the grand ministers of China's dynastic ages to have such a view, but they still saw themselves as sages and saviors and still had the attitude of looking down upon the people from on high. In contrast, we Communist Party officials come from the people and are here for the people. In petition work, it is both our responsibility and obligation to listen to the voices of the people, understand their wishes, improve our work and work manner constantly and care for and aid every person who needs it. The principal aim of petition work is always seeing ourselves as one of the people and always keeping the people in mind. In essence, petition work refers to handling letters sent from the people and receiving people who have come to visit. Governments at all levels within the prefecture and counties of Ningda have established a visit appointment system and set dates for leaders to receive visitors. Is it enough then if we simply reply to all letters and receive all visitors? I think not, because this is simply a passive attitude toward petition work, and there is still a gap between the requirements for the work in the new era and the people's hopes for all levels of leadership. In the new situation, leaders at all levels need to stop putting on airs, get rid of bureaucratism, and find time to visit people. Thus, they may carry out the petition work at the grassroots level and bring the care of the party and aid of the government into the homes of ordinary people. Leaders can improve their work manner and overcome bureaucratism by leaving office and making visits to people. As Lenin incisively pointed out, in the sea of people we are after all but a drop in the ocean, and we can administer only when we express correctly what the people are conscious of. Footnote 2. Source of English translation, Vladimir Lenin, 11th Congress of the RCPB, Political Report of the CCRCPB, in Collected Works, Volume 33, Moscow, Progress Publishers, 1973, 304. End of footnote 2. However, some of our leading officials have truly forgotten our fine tradition of linking with the people, misunderstood the very meaning of party leadership, and gotten used to issuing orders from above. Some of our other colleagues cannot extricate themselves from the mountains of papers and seas of meetings. They seldom make it to the grassroots level, and this forms a barrier that keeps the people away. When this is the case, the opinions and needs of the people do not reach the leaders in time, and party and government policies and decisions also cannot be effectively implemented. When visiting the people, leaders at all levels should watch what they do, find out how much they make, and examine where they live, to learn about their work and life conditions. Footnote 3. See Book 2 in the Analects of Confucius. End of footnote 3. This can fundamentally prevent the bad habits of authoritarianism and bureaucratism. We believe that leaders at all levels should go to the grassroots with their tasks and problems and closely examine practical cases. Delving deep into the grassroots and improving the work efficiency of leading authorities can help with resolving problems at the source and diffusing conflicts in their budding stages. At the same time, we must actively educate the people, promote our policies among them, and improve the work manner at all levels of leadership. In this way, party principles and policies will be fully implemented. By visiting the people, leaders can have a better relationship with the people and build up a strong notion of serving the people with heart and soul. No matter how senior they are, leaders at prefecture and county levels are the servants of the people and must have the comfort and safety of the people in mind. Governance lies in reassuring the people. Reassuring the people lies in observing their suffering. Footnote 4. See Zhong, memorial to the emperor proposing taxes be waived to reassure the people. End of footnote 4. The exemplary party official, Jiao Yu Lu, often went to the villages and into households where the poorest and most hard-off people lived. Footnote 5. A native of Zibo, Shandong Province, Jiao Yu Lu, 1922 to 1964, was a model official of the Communist Party of China. He joined the party in 1946 and was appointed county party secretary of Lankao, Henan Province, in 1962. End of footnote 5. He took the county party committee members to the train station where people were fleeing from famine, and when there was a huge snowfall, he had the county officials visit homes of farmers to help them solve problems. He stooped into low thatched huts, sat with farmers at their bedsides, and told them he was the son of a farmer himself. Like the county where Jiao Yu Lu worked, Ningde is also an impoverished region, and all party members and officials, in particular those with leadership responsibilities, should think carefully about how they measure up to Jiao Yu Lu. We should often consider whether we are completely and thoroughly serving the people, and what we have done for the people, and what problems we have resolved within the scope of our own duties. We should consider whether we are trying to outdo our neighbors in terms of position, wealth, house, wife, and children, or whether we are willing to roll up our sleeves and toil alongside the people. We can only gain their sincere support by keeping them in our minds and working to advance their interests. Leaders can hear the voices of the people and submit to their supervision when visiting them in their homes. Since the reform and opening up, the prefectures and counties have realized great achievements in all levels of work, but certain problems still exist. This requires us to pay attention to the voices of the people and consciously submit to their criticism and supervision. We must promptly accept the correct opinions of the people to drive our current work. When given incorrect opinions, we must patiently and carefully explain our thinking based on the situation. Some of our colleagues cannot stand to hear the slightest criticism and aren't willing to perform self-criticisms. Some engage in flattery, give people a hard time, seize upon faults, or wield a big stick when people offer their opinions, and this is strictly forbidden under party discipline. What is the key to rapid success in establishing order? It is in treating people with the utmost sincerity. As long as leaders at all levels form true connections with the people, genuinely share their views, and persist in coming from the people and going to the people, our work will continue to improve and our causes will thrive and grow. Leaders also need to visit the people to unite them and stabilize the overall situation. As Deng Xiaoping once said, "Why do people follow the Communist Party?" Footnote 6. A native of Guang'an, Sichuan Province, Deng Xiaoping, 1904 to 1997, was a Marxist, Chinese proletarian revolutionary, statesman, military strategist, and diplomat. He was one of the leaders of the Communist Party of China, the Chinese People's Liberation Army, and the People's Republic of China. The principal founder of Deng Xiaoping theory, he was the chief architect of China's socialist reform and opening up and modernization drive. End of footnote 6. First is to rise up and be liberated. Second is to prosper and find happiness. After 40 years of construction, Ningde, like the rest of the country, has made huge achievements in economic and social development. But, due to various reasons, the life of farmers in some mountainous counties and townships is still a far cry from prosperity and happiness. When faced with the current fiscal difficulties in certain impoverished counties and townships, our colleagues cannot be like the poet who heaves a long sigh and brushes away his tears, sad that man's life should be so beset with hardship. Footnote 7. See Chu Yuan, On Encountering Trouble. Source of English translation, slightly revised here. Chu Yuan, Li Sao, On Encountering Trouble. In The Songs of the South. Translated by David Hawkes. Harmonsworth, Penguin Books Limited, 1985. Page 70. End of footnote 7. Instead, they must actively work out plans, follow the feedback and needs of the people, work hard to get more done for them, and achieve solid, beneficial results. They must lay out the concept of beneficial, solid results. This includes supporting economic development and helping the people prosper. It also includes upholding social integrity, fighting those who would spoil our achievements, enriching the cultural life of the people, and creating a good social environment that is culturally advanced, friendly, harmonious, and stable. Furthermore, it includes resolving the people's difficulties in terms of clothing, food, housing, and transportation, and the people's needs during birth, old age, illness, and death. It even extends to us being able to care about and help with the small matters, like people in remote mountainous areas not being able to buy everyday items, such as light bulbs and soap. It is easy to say we will achieve solid results for the people, but it is difficult to actually pull it off. It is easy to achieve one result for one day, but it is hard to keep at it until the end. We must be clear about what is truly important and what is truly urgent. We must have the spirit of water droplets drilling through rock and keep plugging away without letting up in our efforts to make the people understand, come around to our side, be happy, and be satisfied.